evening, everybody. Welcome to Let Me Get This Straight. Let me know where you're tuning in from, city and state, because this is going to be a good one. We're going to disclose some things that I think a lot of people have not heard about the Michigan school shooting event, Oxford High School. As many of you know, the parents of the school shooter, Ethan Crumbley, have now been arrested and charged with 4 counts of, I believe it's now, I know there were different charges, but essentially their role in leading to the death of the 4 people. So their bond is set at $500,000 apiece. So, but there are some things I'm going to disclose that a lot of people haven't heard of. I've been able to speak to some officers from the area, and of course I'm not going to share that. But let me know where you're tuning in from, city and state. If you're tuning in from outside this nation, let me know your country, province, region. If you're tuning in from Australia, from one of the camps that you're detained in, and they have access to give you a phone, or you have access to your phone, welcome. That's another story. So anyway, let's get into it. So before we start this, we are going to talk about the fact for 1 second about how Alec Baldwin is now maintaining that he did not pull the trigger on the weapon that shot the woman on the set of the movie Rust. He's saying he did not pull the trigger. Folks, I don't know if it gets any crazier than what we're seeing right now. You thought the, stuff with, the pandemic was going crazy. But anyway, so let's get into it. I'm going to share some things with you. I've had some, able to get some insider knowledge. Of course, I can't disclose where I got this. Some of this is out, and most of it is out, but some of it isn't. And I'm going to talk about the most troubling thing about this school shooting event that a lot of people aren't talking about, and some people are asking what's going to happen as a result of this. You may not have heard it, but folks, it's really disturbing. And I'm going to share it with you here tonight. So I'm going to start out. We're going to go back to November 21st. On November 21st, Ethan Crumbley, the shooter, and if you've heard these, please throw a hand up. Let me know you've heard. If you have heard or read details that have been verified, not rumor, please share them here. We don't like rumor. We don't like, emotion. We're not talking about spin here. If you have some facts, maybe you live in that area, you talk to someone firsthand, please share them here, because we're trying to, get the right information out here. But what I'm going to share with you in about 3 minutes is shocking and disturbing. So, November 21st, Ethan was caught by his teacher in the classroom during class searching for ammo on his phone. So the school did reach out to his mother, Jennifer, and I believe her name is Jen. I want to make sure I don't get that wrong. That is correct. Parents' names are James and Jennifer Crumbley. So they did reach out to Jennifer Crumbley, his mom. They left her a message, a voicemail, and they sent her an email. She didn't respond. So no response. So what she did do was she sent a message to her son, Ethan, and the text message said, "LOL, I'm not mad at you. You have to learn not to get caught." Meaning she received the messages from the school about the teacher catching him looking to purchase ammo or looking at ammo while in class. And rather than respond to the school and reach back out to the school and say, I'm sorry, whatever, she didn't even respond to the school. The school never heard from her. she sends a text to her son saying, "Don't get caught, LOL," as if him searching ammo in the classroom was no big deal. Now, when you take a step back, you might think that's not a big deal. He's looking up ammo, well, and he's a kid that maybe goes shooting, whatever. But it gets worse. So now, 5 days later, on November 26th, James Crumbley, the father, goes to a gun shop. I believe the name of the gun shop. I'm not going to share the name of the gun shop. That's besides the point. I have the name of the gun shop right here, but I'm not going to share it. If you guys want to look it up, you guys can. And purchases a handgun. Purchases a 9mm handgun. A lot of people are talking about the manufacturer of that handgun. That's a manufacturer that has a lot of the handguns that I own. However, there's no use talking about the manufacturer of that handgun, right? We don't talk about the manufacturer of the car when someone drives drunk. So the manufacturer of the gun is irrelevant in this case. It could have been any manufacturer. So 9mm handgun. The father goes and purchases it. The son is present. Father goes through all the adequate background checks, does all the paperwork, gets the green light, and purchases the 9mm handgun. His son is there. Later that same day, Ethan makes a post, apparently on Instagram, where he posts a photo of the gun that his father just purchased and posts a photo of that gun saying, "Just got my new beauty today." And as if that's his weapon. Okay, Instagram, the downfall of many a man. So, one day later, the next day, November 27th, the mom, Jennifer, and the son are at the range shooting, and the mom makes a post that says, "Mom and Son Day testing out his new Christmas present." Now, obviously, November 27th, you're 1 month away from Christmas, a little less than a month away from Christmas. But now they're declaring that not only did he declare in a message on social media that it was his weapon, now the mom is declaring that it's his Christmas present, and they're at the range shooting. Okay. 3 days later, November 30th, the fateful day, the day of the shooting, a teacher notices Ethan in class with a drawing on his desk. This drawing is troubling. Some of you may have seen the drawing. If you haven't, disturbing. So the drawing is of a gun, a handgun, right? And it's pointing at the words, "The thoughts won't stop, help me." Okay? The words written on the paper, handgun, right? Quote, "The thoughts won't stop, help me." And now there's a figure of a person, a man, woman, a figure, and it appears that that figure is laying on the ground. It has been shot multiple times, 2 times, and it's bleeding. And the words blood, these are, quote, "blood everywhere," is next to the drawing of a bullet. So there's a drawing of a bullet, and next to that bullet, the words, quote, "blood everywhere," end quote. And then there's a laughing emoji beneath that. And beneath the laughing emoji are the words, "My life is useless." Okay. My life is useless. Okay. And then below that are the words, "The world is dead." The world is dead. This is all from the drawing he had on his desk that the teacher saw, and the teacher took a picture of it. Okay. So, now remember, this is on the 30th. 9 days earlier, there was a teacher that caught him searching for ammo, which some say, okay, is that alarming? I don't know, maybe, whatever. But now you see this photo. Unknown right now, I believe it was 2 separate teachers, not the same teacher. So teacher 1 saw him, caught him looking up ammo on his phone during class 9 days prior. Now, 9 days after that, searching for ammo, on the 30th, a teacher sees this drawing on his desk, takes a photo of it, calls the principal. A counselor is called down to the room. A school guidance counselor is called down to the room. And Ethan is removed from class. So he gathers his books in his backpack, and the counselor removes him from the classroom. The parents are called. James and Jennifer are called. The parents are called and they're shown the drawing. By this point, he's scratched out a lot of what is on the paper, probably because he realizes that it looks bad. So all the words that he wrote, like the blood everywhere, my life is useless, the world is dead, all those things he had scratched out, but you could kind of see what was already there, what was written. So he kind of knew he was in trouble. So he probably got the pen out and started scribbling things out. Didn't want anyone to maybe get alarmed. Too late. So the parents are called in and they are shown the photo and they are told that they have 48 hours to get Ethan to a counselor. Now, I don't know if they are saying a child psychologist or whatever, but they had 48 hours to get their son in front of a mental health professional. And they said, you got to do it. You got 48 hours. He's got to do it. So they say, okay. They say, okay. Folks, here's where things get weird. They, at that point, let Ethan, the parents say they don't want to remove Ethan from class. They feel they want him to stay in school. They don't want to pull him out of school. They said, we'll get the counselor. We'll take care of it. We'll schedule an appointment with the counselor. But we don't want to take him out of school. I guess they didn't want him missing class. I'm assuming. I don't know. But they just didn't. They stated they didn't want him being removed from school. So the school officials sent him back to class. He gathered his books in his backpack and he went back to class. After he went back to class with his backpack, a couple of hours later, the shooting began. Word of the shooting broke on the news. And at 1:22 p.m., so probably almost toward the end of the school day, and this is hours after the parents were called in for the disturbing drawing, said they had 48 hours, and rather than sending him home and saying, get him out of here, take him to the hospital now. The emergency room has a mental health emergency, if you would. They bring him in. They have counselors there. Goes back to the classroom. Short time later, the shooting occurs. At 1:22 p.m. in the afternoon, the mom texted Ethan, don't do it. Ethan, don't do it. So that was at 1:22. At 1:37 p.m., the dad, James Crumbley, called the police to report that his handgun, the one he had purchased just a few days prior with Ethan, that Ethan had posted on Instagram, that was his new beauty, and that the mother posted she was with her son at the range with his new Christmas present. That same gun, at 1:37 p.m., he called the police and said gun was missing and that his son might be the shooter at Oxford High School. Now, look at the timeline, folks. At 1:22, the mom texts the son, Ethan, don't do it, after she heard there's a school shooting. What that meant, unknown. Now, 15 minutes later, the father calls the police. Why did it take 15 minutes? If the mother is sending a text to her son saying, Ethan, don't do it, they know it's him. They know it's him. It should have taken 15 seconds In fact, at 1:22 p.m., when the mother sent the message to Ethan saying, Ethan, don't do it, we all know they already knew the gun was missing. They already knew the gun was missing. Why are you sending the message at 1:22 p.m., Ethan, don't do it? You already know the gun is missing. You know it's him. He's at the school. He's the shooter. 15 minutes later, the dad calls the police. Says, my gun is missing, and I believe the school shooter is my son. Investigation found that the gun was kept in an unlocked drawer in the parents' room. That's what they're saying. Unknown where the gun actually was kept. Did they let the son keep it in his room? We don't know. There's speculation out there, and all of that has to be pushed aside because we just don't know. We don't know whether the son had possession of it or the parents truly kept it in their room. Clearly, it wasn't kept safely. It wasn't locked, so he had access to it. Now, folks, here's the most troubling part of this story. The parents have now been arrested and charged $500,000 bond for each of them because the prosecutor said that they were complicit based on the evidence. They were complicit and negligent, and their actions led to the death of those 4 people. So they're charged as complicit in the murder of those people. And I don't think right now anyone has a problem with that, okay? Maybe there are some people on the fringe who are saying, well, wait a second, how are you going to charge the parents with murder? I mean, they weren't involved, but were they not involved, or were they negligent in essentially allowing a minor full-blown access to a weapon, not keeping it locked, not saying, hey, listen, it's kind of like when a young person gets a car. You buy them a car and you say, oh, it's your car. But we all know mom and dad actually own the car. It's our car. And, when you want to drive it, you ask us for permission to take the car and drive somewhere, whatever. It's not really yours. So that's how it was when I was growing up. My mom got me a car, but I was very well aware that it wasn't my car. It was her car. She bought it. And I had to ask to use that car, although it was my car. That's how it should go. So here's the most troubling part. Let's go back to when he was called down to the office with his backpack for the alarming photo on the day of the shooting. Earlier in the day of the shooting. He's called down to the office with his backpack. They sit down. They hold up a photo of a very alarming photo, a picture, a drawing. And they say, this is a problem. They call the parents in. Mom and dad come in. So now you have school officials, I'm sure the principal, I'm sure at that point the superintendent, and multiple teachers, definitely a guidance counselor was involved. So let's say a handful of school officials knew about this. Now, there is a school resource officer, which it is unclear right now whether or not the school resource officer was notified of this. Now, the fact that they're saying it's unclear if the school resource officer was notified of this is bananas to begin with. I mean, why do you have a police officer in the school? You have a kid drawing a photo of someone shot, bleeding, with disturbing messages and blood everywhere, and you're not going to call the cop that's working in the school and say, hey, can you come down? We got an issue here. You just call this guidance counselor or whatever, the teacher. How did they not even call the police? Now, maybe you've all seen the video. Now, in post-production, if you want, I'll loop it in. I'll make sure the team loops it in. Where the police officer is handcuffing and escorting a 6-year-old little girl out of a school because she had a temper tantrum. The girl had a temper tantrum, apparently maybe assaulted a school member of the staff, but she's this little tiny 6-year-old, and the officer walks in, handcuffs her, and walks her out of the school for a temper tantrum. But in this case, it appears that the cops weren't even called. Now, I'm being told that the school resource officer was not notified. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if he wasn't notified, were the cops notified? I don't know. Maybe so. They should have been. They should have been for this, and that may come out in the wash down the road. However, at this time, it appears that they weren't, because in this meeting with the parents and whoever the school official was, and Ethan with his backpack sitting right next to him, where he had this drawing of someone shot, bleeding, no one in that room said, Ethan, do you have access to a gun? Do you maybe have a gun on you? Are you looking to hurt anyone? Nothing. Nothing. So the fact that he was allowed to go back to class, let's just talk about that for a second. The fact that he was allowed to go back to class, to me, is, well, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? To let this boy, after that alarming of a drawing and the words that he wrote, what were they I would have said, you have to take this young man to the emergency room for a psych eval right now. The fact that the school officials, when the parents said, we don't want to take him home, send him back to class. The fact that that is what happened is beyond me. If anyone here watching can just tell me how that happened, I don't know. So, but the fact that they didn't ask, did he have a weapon? The fact that mom and dad didn't pull him aside and said, Ethan, okay, this is a little crazy here. Hey, you don't have that gun on you, do you? Because if you have that gun on you, you better give that to me right now. Something, right? How no school official looked at him with that backpack after seeing what he drew and the words he wrote on that drawing, highly disturbing, said, Ethan, do you have anything on you? Do you mind if I look in your backpack with your parents here? Do you mind if we look in your backpack? Nothing. Put the backpack on his shoulder, was allowed to go back to class. Folks, we see a lot of insane things when you look at how our government is run, maybe our local government, our state government, our national government. And we see a lot of disgusting things, and we see a lot of things that make us scratch our head and say, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. How does this happen? Now, I haven't spoken to a single human being with a minimum of 5 brain cells that has not said, when I've shared this with them, that has not said, how'd they not check the backpack? The first thing people say is, why'd they let him go back to class? So, who let him go back to class? Who made the decision in that school to let him go back to class? I don't care if the parents said, I don't want to take him home. If I'm that principal, or if I'm that school counselor, I'm going to say, I don't care if you don't want to take him home. Not only are you taking him out of this building right now, you're to take him directly to the hospital. That didn't happen. He was allowed to go back. Okay, you're going to allow him to go back? Fine. Insane, but fine. You let him go back. Let's call the police. Let's call the school resource officer and say, hey, we're just going to give you a quick check. Check his person, check his bag, and check his locker. You absolutely, after seeing that drawing, you absolutely have the grounds to check all of that for the safety of everyone involved, for the safety of everyone sitting in that room. Ethan, are you looking to hurt yourself? Or are you looking to hurt anyone else? No? Okay, do you have anything on you that you may be looking to use to hurt anyone? Do you mind if we just check? At that point, it's over. It is over. It wasn't done. Now, so with the parents arrested and being charged, some people are asking, and they're essentially being charged for their negligent actions around the purchase and handling of the firearm. I don't know. I haven't spoken to anyone who disagrees with that. But here is my question. Who in the school is going to be charged? The principal, superintendent, the school counselor? Who was running that ship that allowed A, him to go back to class, B, him to go back to class without being searched, with the backpack that had the gun in it, loaded, ready to kill people? Who dropped the ball there? Because I feel that is equally negligent. Do you? What say you folks? Now, everyone is looking to say, oh, who's responsible for this? And a lot of people are pointing the fingers at the parents. And I agree with that. But let us take a step back and let's bring everyone in. Because if you're going to say, listen, besides the person who pulled the trigger, Alec Baldwin aside, because he said that he didn't pull the trigger, the gun, it was like the immaculate ejection, right? The round went off, the casing got ejected, and it was immaculate. He didn't do it. It just happened on its own, right? So unless that was something that happened here, which we know it wasn't, this young man pulled the trigger and killed these people. And you're going to look at who else was involved. You know, on the set of Rust with the Alec Baldwin situation, they were looking at, who was the set director? Who was in charge of props? They were looking at everyone. They were like, hold on a second. They were looking at everyone except the guy who pulled the trigger. So in this case, why don't we take a look at everyone, including the guy who pulled the trigger? No one should be left out of this, right? Now, we know in some situations you have schools that are run by crazy people themselves, right? I worked in a town. There was a middle school. The principal of that school, everyone in the town declared that person running that middle school was a lunatic. And it was spoken around the town. So sometimes you have people who are in charge or in positions of power, and they themselves aren't too sharp. They themselves aren't too quick. Some of you who have met with the administration in your school may agree. You may look at your principal of your child's school or some of their teachers and say, man, how is this? You don't know, right? So there's some responsibility here, for sure. There's some responsibility here. Where is anyone going to be held accountable? We'll see. Outside of the shooter and his parents, we'll see. We don't know. At this point, we don't know. Some people are asking, how could the police, didn't do anything? Well, to those people, I'll tell you, as someone who did the job, if the school doesn't call you, you don't know it happened. The police are out, traffic control, calls for service, first aid calls, other enforcement actions, proactive, reactive stuff out around the whole town. That's how it was where I worked. If the school has an incident like that and they don't notify the police department, well, the police will never know about it. Police will know. And if there's a school resource officer and they don't tell the school resource officer, well, the school resource officer is not going to know about it. How those things went by the wayside. So there's an algorithm, right? If this happens, there's a pattern of things that need to happen. You need to make immediate notification to the police department. That's how it worked in the town I worked in. If X incidents, there was a list of incidents, and if any of those incidents occurred, this is what you had to do. And one of the steps was notify the police department or notify the school resource officer. So there was other balls dropped in this case that are pretty alarming. Let's see. We know. Some people just drop the ball right and left. They're in positions of power. They're school principals. And they just are a hot mess and drop the ball in many aspects of life, literally and figuratively. And they drop the ball right and left. And nothing happens to them. Nothing happens to them. So let's see if that's the case here. If nothing happens to them. It'll be very interesting to see if that goes. So let's see how that happens, because a lot of these administrators sometimes don't want to call the police because they don't want it to seem like there's an issue, because now it gets reported and now that stat is on the record for the police being called to the school. So they kind of try to limit calling the police because they don't want those stats, because when people are moving to the town and now they're looking up the school and seeing how the school is the school safe, and there's multiple calls for police responding to the school, it may hurt the school's identity. There's a lot of things that go into this that I'm sure a lot of school administrators take a look at, but at the end of the day, listen, you could be a hot mess in your life. You could be, 150 pounds overweight and a complete disaster. But you got to call the police when a kid draws a photo like that and makes those allegations. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. So we'll see. A lot is left to unfold here. And we know that this is not the end of this story and this situation. So I look forward to seeing what happens here and see who else is held accountable. Because, listen, everyone's got to be held accountable at some point. Everyone's going down, right? Well, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. And for those people who reached out and, there's the memes going around, they're right. Listen, there are people who are saying, well, you look at what's going on right now in our society, and certain large companies that produce medications for people have complete immunity from any kind of lawsuits or anything for anyone who may be taking any new medications that are being administered. And they have no, they're completely Teflon. No, they have zero liability. Their hands are completely clean. So they produce this new thing, and you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you need to take today. I don't know what we're up to, and you die or you become disabled or whatever. Their hands are clean, and so is the doctor. So not only is the pharmaceutical company, but the doctor who gave it to you, his hands are clean too. So if you end up dead, they're good to go. So we'll see when people are saying, well, the parents now and the gun company and the school, everyone's got to go down. A lot of parents are angry and everyone's like, everyone's going down. Everyone's going down. Everyone's going down, huh? Well, that's interesting, because over here, no one's going down. But over here, everyone's going down. Oh, curious. So let's see who goes down. Share your thoughts. Let me know. Would love to hear what you guys think here. And of course, this is something that really hits home if you have children in school. It's a scary time. Of course, times like this, unfortunately, when things like this happen, sales of armored backpacks and stuff go through the roof. At 221B Tactical, we have a hard time even keeping them in stock every time this happens. And we have a lot of parents that are concerned. They're reaching out. They say, hey, I want to get a ballistic panel for my kid's backpack, or I want to get a bullet-resistant backpack, bulletproof backpack. And, as a company, you look at that and you say, well, of course, as a company, hey, listen, we're all human beings. Of course, you want to sell products and you want to make money. But when you're selling products like that and parents are like scared to send their kids to school and they want a bulletproof panel in their child's backpack, that's just like, kind of world are we living in? That's like just disturbing. But, so a lot of the parents that reached out to our customer service team over the last few days asking about that stuff, obviously some items we have, some items we're sold out on, all that stuff, they'll take care of you. And we understand your concern. Of course, we understand your concern. Your child means everything to you. So you could reach out to them and, they'll help you out with any questions or concerns. But at the end of the day, the ideal situation would be that we never sold one of those to a parent, a scared parent ever again. Those are for police officers to wear when they're, out there on the street with bad guys and thugs with guns. That's what that's for. Or soldiers who are overseas, fighting terrorists. That's what body armor is for. When you start seeing people, buying it for their kids that are in like elementary school and middle school and high school, it's troubling. So anyway, listen, folks. The world's a crazy place. Be prepared. Be ready. Make sure you have the stuff that you need. All times. You never know when you might be the person that needs to jump into action. Tourniquets, first aid kit, keep them in your car. Keep it in your car. You don't need to be like Joe Ninja and carry it on your belt. Okay, whatever. Keep it in your car. Keep it in your bag. It's important. You never know. You never know when it's going to happen, right? And, make sure you put it next to your hand sanitizer, right? Gotta use that hand sanitizer. Get all your shots, all 9 of them that you need now for the 14th variant. And, quadruple mask up, quintuple mask up, whatever you need to do. I just say, just wash your hands and don't touch your face and be good. But whatever you need to do, you do it. You do it. We're going to get through this together. We're building back better. Damn it.